Bubba, as we come back, we had a few elections going on across the country. Been watching that. Let's face it. I mean, this country is in trouble, and one of the things that was talked about is it's coming to the point that a lot of folks that sit around and say every time this person runs, something happens, or why did they do that, or why won't they do that, and I wish they would do this. And I remember my wife being part of a grassroots organization called Allied Women, and their whole goal, started out on our state level, was find people to run that may be different, that may be a breath of fresh air. Obviously, they have to have the tools to get it done. Find a way to get them the money they need to run a campaign that gives them hope, and try to get them elected. And now that's starting to happen, in the states. It's starting to happen at the federal level, and there were some very important runoffs for both parties this week. And obviously, we were talking about that we were part of some here at the state level and at the federal level, and happy to report that the people that we were supporting actually won. And I think that's good especially at the federal level. It's good for the country. So I thank all of you that were praying about that, and like I say, this is not. I believe one thing we got to do is stop all this, turning it into some sort of bizarre soap opera and innuendo and gossip and I'm proud to say that the campaigns we were part of didn't participate in any of that. I think that we just got to get to the point where we look at the candidate, we support the candidate, and we let them debate, we let them make their presentation, and then you decide who you want to vote for. And like I said, I thought Gary Palmer, who was one of the ones we were supporting at the federal level, I loved when he said that this campaign was not against anybody; it was for something.
All right.
And I've said that all along. I mean, I was not against any particular candidate. I was just for one, that I knew personally, and I knew the work that he had done behind the scenes, and I always like watching these American stories about the Seabiscuits of the world that nobody gives a chance.
Are you calling Gary Seabiscuit?
Gary is Seabiscuit. But if you look back, it was one of those moments in political history that people look back. I mean, a guy who obviously has a lot of expertise, but he wasn't very well known because he's behind the scenes guy. It's one thing to be a songwriter; it's another to be the performer. And he's he's not really fits the American Idol mentality of the voter these days. And I'm proud, and makes me feel better about at least the state that people took time to get to know him and hear what he had to say and actually listen to his plans. And I think people are just getting to the point that we got to have problem solvers. We all know problem acknowledgers, but we got to have problem solvers. And again, he's going to a very rough, hard place. He will not be welcome. He will. As you said, if you and I ever got elected, when we left, we would be the most hated people in Washington by the Washington folks. And Gary's not going to be liked because he's going to go there and he's going to try to rattle some things and make some noise and make some change. And he's going to need help. So I encourage it all across this country. Turning presidents is one thing. Turning that Congress is big.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got to get in there and do that. And so I'm just happy for him and his family. Any of you who have been part of campaigns, how taxing it is. And I thought he's got a great.
Did you say tax?
Yeah, he has a great story. I love the part, and you have to hear how Gary talks, and he's just funny. He's a funny guy in his own way, and he said that he had been part of this grassroots operation. He was the one going, we got to find candidates, we got to get them what they need, we got to help get them elected, and if we're going to make change. And he goes home to his wife and tells her he's not going to run. And she said, well, why aren't you going? I just don't want. I'm not going to run. I just don't want to do that. She said, well, you're a hypocrite. I mean, you're telling everybody else to do it, and you won't do it. And he said that really stuck him. And he said that night I just prayed about it and realized, okay, whatever happens, but I'm definitely supposed to do this. And he came out of nowhere, and last night won. And we'll now go into the general election in the fall, and the place he represents, as we found out with Gary's victory, don't ever assume anything's a done deal.
Right.
Even the victory we're celebrating should remind us to never think you've got it won. But where he the place he will represent in Washington, it's tough for a Democrat to win that, thankfully. But you never know. So there's still one more step, but he will represent the Republican Party.
You know, Rick, the whole process, I was thinking yesterday as I left voting that, you know, what an honor and a privilege it is to vote, and we fought wars for this. This is why we put aircraft carriers out there, to do this, so other people could not tell us who our leaders would be. And, you know, to a fault, we don't take full advantage of that. I don't know what the turnout was for runoffs yesterday. I know it was light, as it usually is.
I can tell you in the 6th district, this will tell you everything you need to know. They almost broke in with breaking news. Turnout extremely high for the 6th district of Alabama. We think as many as 25% of people voted.
Yeah, see
and that was called huge runoff turnout.
Yeah, oh yeah, for runoff it is. I mean, usually 5-10%, something like that. So, you know, it's such a privilege, and there were a lot of, I think, good candidates out there. Yep. Some won, some didn't. But you know, I think it really does kind of fire you up that we have that process when you start thinking about it. What a gift that is, that we get to choose our leaders, or sometimes a curse. Right. But it's a process we should be proud that we have, and we should work to make it all it could be. And, you know, the whole process, it's, you know, none of us like negative campaigning, and that's part of it. And, I would encourage a lot of the candidates, and you know, we've got a lot of people running now who's never been in politics.
Which
before.
Is good.
I think that's a good thing.
We need that.
I don't think if you're in that necessarily is a negative, but I don't think you should make a career of it. And when you have been there a certain amount of time, and that's for the voters to decide, I think it's time you step down and let somebody else do it, because you become a career politician. Right. And I don't think that works. I don't think that's the way it was meant to be. But, you know, there's these guys that run campaigns and the media companies that do it. And, you know, they know, or they think that negative campaigning works. That's why you see it. And everybody, when you do polling, everybody hates negative campaigning, but people keep using it because they seem to win with it. Right. And, you know, I would just encourage a lot of these new guys and ladies getting into it, and still more that will get into it. You know, be in charge of your campaign. Don't let the campaign handlers tell you how to do it and run it and attack people. And I think that turns so many people off. And like I say, it has a track record of winning. That's why. But there's always a time for you, if you're going to be a good leader in the elected office that you're running for, the time to start that is when you're running your campaign and say, we're not going to do that. We're going to tell you why I should be the guy.
Right. And really, especially.
I just mean as a whole. I'm not talking about any particular candidate, any particular campaign, whatever, because, you know, you always have this. And I think good candidates are sold on this by these people who run campaigns. You know, we're 15-0, we're 15-2 in campaigns, so let us run it, and we'll do this, and we'll do, you know. And I'm like, and especially even at a higher level, if you are a Christian, there's ways that you, I think, should run your campaign that are different than everybody else.
Right. Well, the thing and you're right, what we should do, and we see this in business, we see it in everything, if we claim, like, Bubba and I are running against each other. That would never happen, but let's say we did. And I said, I'm a Christian. Bubba said, me too. And all of a sudden somebody comes to me with something juicy on Bubba. And the Bible says I am to go to Bubba personally and say, look, this has been brought to my attention. Did you do this? Is this true? Let me hear your explanation. I don't go out there and put that out to the public without coming to him as a Christian. See, our spiritual walk is supposed to trump everything. Just like with suing people. The Bible says that we're not to sue each other. We're to work it out. Well, then I can't say, well, this is something, I'm just going to sue Bubba anyway, but now I'm still a Christian. Well, but you've been told not to do that. And Matthew 18 tells us how we handle getting gossip or accusations about each other if we're in the same, we claim to be in the faith. And so we can't say, well, yeah, Rick, but that doesn't work when you run the campaign. Well, no, that trumps everything. You know, you go, and if you don't go to the person and do that, then what you've done is wrong. And
there's nothing wrong with two people who in many of the cases are both believers, running for an office and saying why I should be elected, or even pointing out the other guy's record.
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
And saying, I wouldn't have done it that way. I would do it this way. When it's all over, the people speak, you shake hands, you move on. There's not a problem with that, but some of this is way beneath us.